There is a moment, a split second between opportunity and action, where everything is decided. In that moment, two voices speak. One is a voice of your highest self, calling you forward toward your destiny. The other is a voice of fear, warning you to stay small, stay safe, stay stuck. And here's what Napoleon Hill discovered after studying the most successful people in history. The difference between those who achieve extraordinary things and those who live ordinary lives comes down to one skill: the power to decide before fear speaks for you. The wealthy decide instantly and change slowly. The poor decide slowly and change instantly based on every new fear that arises. Today, you're going to learn how to master the art of decision-making, how to silence fear's voice, and how to claim your power to decide your destiny before doubt has a chance to steal it. Before we go deeper into this life-changing principle, I need you to make a declaration right now. If you're ready to stop letting fear make your decisions, if you're ready to take back your power, if you're ready to become someone who decides with clarity and courage, type in the comments, "I decide with power." These 4 words are not just a comment. They're a commitment to yourself and to the universe that you will no longer be ruled by fear. Pause this video now. Go to the comments, type, "I decide with power," and then continue watching. And if this message is already speaking to something deep inside you, subscribe to this channel. Hit that notification bell so you never miss transformational content, and leave your like. Share this video with someone who's been paralyzed by indecision, someone who's been letting fear run their life, someone who needs to hear that they have the power to choose. Now, let's dive into what really matters. Napoleon Hill spent over 20 years interviewing the most successful people of his era: Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, and hundreds of others. And he discovered something that shocked him. These titans of industry made decisions faster than average people. Not recklessly, not impulsively, but decisively. When an opportunity presented itself, they decided immediately. When a problem arose, they chose a course of action without delay. When others were still gathering information, analyzing, weighing options, and consulting everyone around them, these successful people had already decided and were taking action. Why? Because they understood something profound. The longer you wait to decide, the more fear infiltrates your thinking. In the first moment an opportunity appears, you see it clearly. Your intuition speaks. Your higher self knows. Your gut gives you a signal. That's the moment of truth. That's when you should decide. But most people don't. They hesitate. They think, "Let me sleep on it. Let me think about it. Let me ask some people. Let me wait and see." And in that delay, fear creeps in. Fear whispers doubt. Fear presents worst-case scenarios. Fear reminds you of past failure. Fear introduces you to all the ways this could go wrong. And by the time you're ready to make a decision, it's not your decision anymore. It's fear's decision. You've let fear speak for you. And here's the tragedy. Most people don't even realize this is happening. They think they're being wise, being careful, being responsible. But Napoleon Hill proved that what looks like wisdom is often just fear disguised as prudence. What looks like careful consideration is often just fear disguised as analysis. What looks like responsibility is often just fear disguised as caution. True wisdom knows when to decide quickly. True wisdom trusts intuition. True wisdom understands that waiting for perfect information is just fear's way of keeping you paralyzed. So let's break this down. What happens in that critical moment when opportunity appears? First, there's a recognition. You see the opportunity. Maybe it's a business idea. Maybe it's an investment. Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe it's a move to a new city. Maybe it's a career change. Whatever it is, something in you recognizes it as significant. That recognition is not random. Napoleon Hill called it infinite intelligence communicating with you. Your higher self, your intuition, your connection to divine wisdom is flagging this moment as important. This is a signal. And in that first instant, you know what you should do. You might not know how. You might not know all the details, but you know the direction. You know the answer. That's your truth speaking. But then comes a second phase, the hesitation. You don't trust that first knowing. You think you need more information. You think you need to be more certain. You think you need to eliminate all risk. So you pause. You delay. You say, "Let me think about this." And that's when fear smells blood in the water. Fear knows that hesitation is its doorway. As long as you decide quickly, fear has no power. But the moment you hesitate, fear rushes in. And fear is a master manipulator. Fear doesn't say, "I'm fear and I want to keep you small." Fear says, "I'm protecting you. I'm being realistic. I'm helping you avoid mistakes." Fear disguises itself as wisdom. It presents logical-sounding arguments. You don't have enough experience. The timing isn't right. What if it doesn't work? You could lose money. People might judge you. You're not ready. You need to prepare more. And because these sound reasonable, you accept them. You let fear convince you to wait, to gather more information, to analyze further, to prepare more, to be more certain. But here's what Napoleon Hill discovered. Certainty before action is an illusion. It doesn't exist. Every successful person he studied took action before they had certainty. They decided before they knew how it would turn out. They committed before they had all the answers, because they understood that waiting for certainty is just another way of saying, I'm letting fear make my decision. Think about the most successful decision you've ever made in your life. Maybe it was starting a business. Maybe it was getting married. Maybe it was moving to a new place. Maybe it was investing in something. Now, think back to the moment you made that decision. Did you have certainty? Did you have all the information? Did you know it would work out? Probably not. You decided despite uncertainty. You decided before fear could talk you out of it. You decided with power, and that's why it worked. Not because it was guaranteed, but because you committed fully. And that commitment unlocked resources, opened doors, and attracted support that you couldn't see from the outside. Napoleon Hill called this the principle of burning bridges. When you decide with full commitment, when you cut off the option to retreat, when you decide before fear speaks, you activate a universal law. The universe responds to decisiveness. God honors those who step forward in faith. Infinite intelligence supports those who trust their inner guidance. But none of that happens when you're wishy-washy, when you're half-committed, when you're waiting for a sign, when you're letting fear hold you back. So here's the key question. How do you develop the power to decide before fear speaks for you? First, you must understand that fear will always speak. Always. It's not going away. It's part of being human. Napoleon Hill studied the bravest, most courageous people of his time. And you know what he found? They felt fear too. The difference was they didn't let fear make their decision. They felt the fear, acknowledged it, and decided anyway. So stop waiting to not feel afraid. Stop thinking you need to overcome fear before you can decide. That's backwards. You decide despite fear. You decide before fear has time to build its case. You decide from your first knowing, your first intuition, your first recognition of truth. Second, you must learn to distinguish between fear's voice and wisdom's voice. This is critical because fear will disguise itself as wisdom. Fear will sound reasonable. So, how do you tell the difference? Here's the test Napoleon Hill taught. Wisdom expands. Fear contracts. Wisdom says, this is challenging and I can handle it. Fear says, this is dangerous and I should avoid it. Wisdom says, I don't know everything, but I'll figure out. Fear says, I don't know everything, so I shouldn't try. Wisdom says, this might not work and it's worth attempting. Fear says, this might not work, so it's not worth the risk. Wisdom opens doors. Fear closes them. Wisdom empowers. Fear paralyzes. Wisdom focuses on possibility. Fear focuses on problem. So when you're facing a decision, check in with yourself. Is this voice expanding my sense of what's possible or contracting it? Is it empowering me or paralyzing me? Is it focused on solutions or problems? If it's expanding, empowering, solution-focused, that's wisdom. Trust it. Decide with it. If it's contracting, paralyzing, problem-focused, that's fear. Acknowledge it. Thank it for trying to protect you, and then decide anyway. Third, you must develop what Napoleon Hill called faith. Not blind faith, not wishful thinking, but faith that is belief combined with action. Faith that says, I don't know how this will work out, but I trust that if I take this step, the next step will be revealed. Faith that says, I don't have all the resources I need, but I believe they'll appear when I commit. Faith that says this scares me and I'm doing it anyway because my intuition says yes. This kind of faith is the antidote to fear because fear thrives on waiting. Fear says, wait until you're certain. Wait until you're guaranteed. Wait until you're comfortable. But faith says, move now. Decide now. Trust now. And when you operate from faith instead of fear, miracles happen. Opportunities appear that you couldn't have seen from the outside. People show up to help. Resources materialize. Doors open. Napoleon Hill documented this phenomenon over and over. He called it the law of attraction, but it's really the law of decision. When you decide with power, with faith, with commitment, before fear speaks, you set forces in motion that work on your behalf. Fourth, you must practice the art of instant decision-making. This is a skill. It's a muscle. And like any muscle, it gets stronger with use. Start with small decisions. When you're deciding where to eat, decide instantly. Don't deliberate for 10 minutes. Trust your first instinct and commit. When you're deciding what to wear, decide quickly. When you're deciding which book to read, decide immediately. Train yourself to trust your intuition and act on it without hesitation. Because here's what happens. Every time you decide quickly in a small matter, you're building the neural pathway of decisive action. You're training your brain that it's safe to decide without overthinking. You're proving to yourself that you can trust your judgment, and that confidence, built through small decisions, will be there when you face big decisions. Napoleon Hill taught that success is the result of small habits repeated daily. Decisive action is one of those habits. Practice it with everything. And then, when the big opportunity comes, when the life-changing moment arrives, you'll be ready. You won't need to think about it. You'll decide instantly, powerfully, before fear has a chance to build its case. Fifth, you must surround yourself with decisive people. Napoleon Hill's mastermind principle applies here powerfully. If you're surrounded by people who agonize over every decision, who overthink everything, who are paralyzed by fear, their indecisiveness will infect you. But if you surround yourself with people who make decisions quickly, who trust their intuition, who act despite uncertainty, their decisiveness will elevate you. You'll start to see that it's possible to decide without having all the answers. You'll watch them commit and figure out along the way. You'll see that the universe supports those who decide with power, and you'll begin to adopt that same approach. So audit your circle. Who are the decisive people in your life? Spend more time with them. Study how they make decisions. Ask them how they develop that skill. Learn from them. And distance yourself from the chronic overthinkers, the perpetual analyzers, the forever waiters. Their energy will keep you stuck. 6. You must understand the cost of indecision. Napoleon Hill found that indecision is one of the most expensive habits a person can have. Every day you don't decide is a day you're not moving forward. Every opportunity you let pass while you're thinking about it is an opportunity someone else seizes. Every moment you spend in analysis paralysis is a moment you're not building, creating, growing. And here's what most people don't realize. The pain of regret is far worse than the pain of a wrong decision. A wrong decision can be corrected. You can learn from it. You can adjust. You can try again. But regret, the pain of I could have, if only I had, that pain lasts a lifetime. Napoleon Hill interviewed countless people near the end of their lives. And you know what their biggest regret was? Not the things they tried and failed at, but the things they never tried because they were too afraid to decide. The opportunities they saw clearly but let slip away. The dreams they had but never pursued. The life they could have lived but didn't because fear spoke for them. Don't be that person. Don't reach the end of your life with a heart full of what ifs. Decide now. Decide powerfully. Decide before fear speaks. And if it turns out to be the wrong decision, at least you'll have tried. At least you'll have grown. At least you'll have no regrets. 7th, you must learn to reframe what decision-making actually is. Most people see decisions as permanent, irreversible, all-or-nothing choices, and that perception creates enormous pressure and fear. But Napoleon Hill taught a different perspective. Decisions are not destination, they're direction. When you make a decision, you're not locking yourself into a fixed outcome. You're choosing a direction to move in. And if you move in that direction and discover it's not right, you can make a new decision. You can change direction. You can adjust course. Decisions are flexible. They're iterative. They're experimental. When you understand this, the pressure to make the perfect decision evaporates. There is no perfect decision. There's only the decision you make and what you do with it. So decide, move, learn, adjust. That's the process. That's how successful people operate. They don't agonize over making the right choice. They make a choice and then make it right through their action. And if it doesn't work out, they make a new choice. This flexibility, this understanding that decisions are not permanent, removes fear's biggest weapon, the fear of being wrong. When you're not afraid of being wrong, you can decide quickly, powerfully, without hesitation. 8th, you must recognize the spiritual dimension of decision-making. This is deep. Napoleon Hill understood that we're not just physical beings making physical decisions. We're spiritual beings connected to infinite intelligence, to divine wisdom, to universal mind. And when you make decisions from that connected place, when you decide from your higher self instead of your fearful ego, you tap into guidance that transcends logic. Your intuition is God speaking to you. That first knowing, that gut feeling, that inner voice that says, yes, this is right, or no, this is for you. That's divine guidance. But fear is ego speaking. Fear is a small self that believes it's separate, alone, unsupported. Fear is the part of you that thinks you have to figure everything out yourself. When you decide from fear, you're deciding from separation. When you decide from intuition, you're deciding from connection. And connected decisions always lead to better outcomes because you're a partner with infinite intelligence instead of relying only on your limited understanding. So before making any significant decision, get quiet. Connect with your higher self. Ask, what does my soul know? Ask, what is the truth here beyond fear? Ask, what would love do? And then listen, not to the loudest voice, which is usually fear, but to the quietest voice, which is usually truth. And when you hear that truth, decide immediately. Don't give fear time to contaminate your clarity. Ninth, you must understand that the power to decide is the power to create. Napoleon Hill taught that thought is creative, but thought without decision is just daydreaming. Decision transforms thought into reality. When you decide, you activate creation. You set forces in motion. You align energy. You open possibility. Think about creation. God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Not, maybe there should be light. Let me think about light. I'm not sure about light. Definite decision. Immediate manifestation. You're made in that same image. You have that same creative power, but you can only access it through decisive action. Indecision creates nothing. Hesitation manifests nothing. Only clear, powerful, immediate decision creates. So when you delay deciding, you're not just postponing action. You're postponing creation. You're keeping your desires in the realm of possibility instead of bringing them into the realm of reality. And the longer you wait, the more your creative power dissipates. Napoleon Hill proved it. He showed that successful people are successful because they decide quickly and powerfully, which activates their creative power immediately. Unsuccessful people remain unsuccessful because they decide slowly and hesitantly, which keeps their creative power dormant. So if you want to create wealth, decide to pursue it before fear talks you out of it. If you want to create a business, decide to start it before fear convinces you to wait. If you want to create a relationship, decide to pursue it before fear makes you question yourself. If you want to create health, decide to change your habits before fear justifies keeping the old ones. Decision equals creation. Indecision equals stagnation. Choose creation. 10th, and this is critical, you must develop what Napoleon Hill called a definite major purpose. When you have absolute clarity on where you're going, decisions become easier. You're not deciding, should I or shouldn't I? You're deciding, does this align with my purpose or not? If it aligns, you say yes immediately. If it doesn't, you say no immediately. Fear has no room to operate when you have clarity of purpose. Fear thrives in ambiguity. When you don't know what you want, every decision feels risky. But when you know exactly what you want, exactly where you're going, exactly what you're building, decisions become simple. They're either yes or no based on alignment. So if you find yourself struggling with indecision, it might not be a decision-making problem. It might be a clarity problem. You might not have a clear vision of your purpose, your goals, your desired destination. Get clear. Define your definite major purpose. Write it down. Make it specific. Make it vivid. Make it emotionally compelling. And then, every decision you face, measure it against that purpose. Does this move me toward my purpose or away from it? Does this support my vision or distract from it? Does this align with who I'm becoming or keep me who I've been? When you have that level of clarity, fear loses its power because you're not making random decisions hoping they work out. You're making aligned decisions knowing they serve your greater purpose. And that knowing gives you the power to decide instantly, confidently, before fear speaks. Now, let me share something powerful with you. Everything I've shared, the principles, the strategies, the understanding, all of it is useless if you don't apply it. Knowledge without application is just information. Napoleon Hill didn't write Think and Grow Rich as entertainment. He wrote it as a manual, a blueprint, a guide to action. And the first action required is decision. So here's what I'm asking you to do. Right now, before you finish this video, there's a decision you've been avoiding. You know what it is. It's that thing you've been thinking about, that opportunity you've been considering, that change you've been planning to make someday, that leap you've been almost ready to take. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And I want you to make that decision right now, not tomorrow, not after you think about it more, not after you talk to more people, not after you feel ready. Right now, while the energy of this message is alive in you, while your intuition is activated, while your courage is high, before fear has a chance to rebuild its case. Decide. Make the choice your higher self knows is right. Commit to the path your intuition is pointing toward. Say yes to the opportunity your gut is confirming. And don't explain it to anyone. Don't justify it. Don't seek approval. Don't wait for consensus. Just decide. And then take one action today that demonstrates your decision. Because decision without action is just intention. But decision plus action is transformation. Napoleon Hill proved that the most successful people in the world became successful because they developed the habit of making decisions rapidly and changing them slowly. While unsuccessful people make decisions slowly and change them rapidly based on every new fear, every new doubt, every new opinion they encounter. Which person will you be? The one who decides with power before fear speaks? Or the one who lets fear make all their decisions? The choice is yours. But understand this, not choosing is still a choice. Indecision is a decision to let circumstances decide for you. Waiting is a decision to let opportunity pass. Overthinking is a decision to let fear win. So choose actively, choose powerfully, choose before fear speaks. And here's what will happen when you do. You'll discover that you're capable of far more than fear told you. You'll find that the things you were afraid of weren't as scary as fear made them seem. You'll see that the universe really does support decisive action. You'll experience doors opening that you didn't know existed. You'll meet people who show up exactly when you need them. You'll access resources that weren't visible from the outside. You'll develop capabilities you didn't know you had. All because you decided. All because you acted. All because you claimed your power before fear could steal it. This is how extraordinary lives are built. Not through careful, fearful, calculated, perfectly analyzed decisions, but through bold, intuitive, faith-filled, powerful decisions made before fear speaks. Napoleon Hill documented this truth through hundreds of case studies. Every titan of industry he studied had moments where they made decisions that others thought were crazy, risky, premature, but they trusted their intuition. They decided with power. They acted with faith, and they created empires. You have that same power, that same intuition, that same connection to infinite intelligence, but you have to use it. You have to trust it. You have to decide before fear talks you out of it. If this message has awakened a decision maker within you, go to the comments right now and type, "I decide with power." Declare it, make it real, commit to it publicly, and then share this video with someone who's been paralyzed by indecision, someone who's been letting fear make their choices, someone who needs to know they have the power to decide. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell for more content that will activate your courage, sharpen your intuition, and empower your decision-making. Leave your like. It helps this message reach people who are ready to stop waiting and start deciding. You were not created to be ruled by fear. You were not designed to overthink yourself into paralysis. You were not born to let opportunities pass while you're still thinking about it. You were created to be decisive. You were designed to trust your intuition. You were born to make powerful choices that create the life you desire. But you have to claim that power. You have to use it. You have to decide before fear speaks for you. Napoleon Hill left us a gift. He proved that ordinary people can achieve extraordinary things through the application of specific principles. And one of those principles is decisive action, the power to decide quickly, the courage to trust your intuition, the faith to move before you have all the answers. That power is yours. It's been yours all along. Fear has just convinced you that you don't have it. Fear has made you believe you need more time, more information, more certainty. But you don't. You have everything you need right now to make the decision that will change your life. So make it today, this moment, before fear speaks, before doubt creeps in, before analysis paralysis takes over. Decide. And then watch as the universe rushes to support your decision. Watch as doors open. Watch as resources appear. Watch as people show up. Watch as your life transforms. Because that's what happens when you decide with power. That's what happens when you trust your intuition. That's what happens when you act before fear can stop you. The life you want is on the other side of the decision you've been avoiding. The wealth you desire is waiting for you to decide to pursue it. The freedom you crave is available the moment you decide to claim it. The purpose you're meant to fulfill is calling you to decide to step into it. So decide, now, before fear speaks, before this moment passes, before the energy fades. Decide with power, decide with faith, decide with courage, and become the person who creates their destiny instead of letting fear choose it for them. You've got this. The power is yours. The moment is now. Decide.